this video we're going to create a new database for basically managing properties related to loan accounts and payments. So I have let's see if I can pull it up. I have a Google spreadsheet where we have rental properties and we have bank accounts for every single property. And sometimes specific rental properties either are not performing very well, we're doing a lot of rehabs, or we're like in an eviction phase. And sometimes we have to pull money from one account and loan it to the account that needs money. And for a while now, for about going on almost 7 months now, I've been doing this in a spreadsheet because I haven't really built it into our real estate database that we have in FileMaker, because our database for real estate is there's a development file, and then there's a production file. So there's a lot of features that I'm working out in the development database before I publish a new version in the production. There's a lot of testing that goes involved. But I felt that creating another FileMaker video would be pretty cool to do around this basic idea of creating a property table from scratch, creating a loan table from scratch, as well as creating some type of currency payment portal for when you select a loan and you can see payment history on paying down that loan. You can see here how right now I'm just tracking payback in full, but there's also a section here where like one project funded another for $6,000, but just recently I've paid 2 different separate payments, but there's still a balance owed to the entire account. So this is not clean. This is not good practice for a business. So I would like to build this as a standalone database just for YouTube purposes, just to show you what's possible in FileMaker. This will allow us to create reporting. This will allow us to create exports of the data in Excel if we need to share it. And there's a lot of list views that we can do. But without going into too much detail, let's just get started. So with FileMaker open here, we can click on the Create button. This is FileMaker. Let's see what FileMaker version is this about. FileMaker. We're working with FileMaker version 22.0.3.300. So that gives you an idea of where we're standing off at and what we're working with. So when you click Create, it says Create an app. We're going to do a blank one. We're going to click Create. And this one is going to be property loan accounts. And we're just going to save this to the desktop for now. And the first table that FileMaker creates, I typically just delete. And it also removes the occurrence in the table graph. So click on also remove occurrences of these tables in the graph, and then click delete. So now if I open up that spreadsheet again, we're basically tracking property names, like property locations, along with properties that are in debt to a loan account, and then an amount field. And we have a payments portal eventually too. So we definitely need to create a table called properties. We're going to say property, loan, and probably payments. So properties will be a list of all of our property names. The loan will be basically a portal that stores data about the loan, like the date of the loan, the reason for the loan, and the amount, and then maybe payment status, paid in full, paid partial. And then When we click on a loan, we can view payment history on when these were paid off, and if they were paid off in one full amount, or if they're paid over time in multiple different payments. So within the property database here, or I'm sorry, the property table, we can start creating like property name. And good database design for something like this would be an address field. Sometimes you'll have address 2 for like unit number or unit letter, and then we have like city, state, and probably like zip code. Typically for us, all of our property names are the property street address, like the street name. And within this, FileMaker already created I hate it when that happens, but anyways, let's go back to like the loan table here. And let's see, we have a date, we have a description, we have a loan account, and we have a debt account. So this is where we're going to have to start figuring. In the loan table here, we're going to create a date field. We're going to create a date field, and then we're going to create description field. And I'm clicking on my Mac here, Command T, and that automatically changes the type here. So we have different field types. We have text, number, date, time, timestamp, container, calculation, and summary. And description would be a text field. Date would be a date field. We're also going to have loan account. So now that we're like starting to think about this instead of a like 2D space, databases are kind of like, they're almost 3-dimensional because there's a lot of layers to this. So this is where we're gonna have to start thinking about like, how are we gonna design this? If we're on a property layout, let's say we're on Day Street South property, how are we going to view this data? Well, we could view this data the way that we view it here in a spreadsheet, and then let's say we can actually create a loan like list, so a list of loans, and basically this is what a list of loans would look like. But let's say when we click onto one of these list records of a loan record, and we click on the property name, and it takes us to Day Street South. When we're on this property, we want to see every single loan that's related through a debt account. So it's going to be related to another property. But we're only going to see the loans that this account has paid out, and to who, or to what, and the amount. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a, let's say, property. How can we do this? We can do a property. Let's do credit account, because we're crediting. It can be credit account or credit property. I think credit account is best, and let's do the debt account. So like what property we're debting, that we're putting in debt to do this. Every loan will be related to a property, which is technically the credit account. So what we could do here, let's think about this. So you guys, this is database design. It's not always quick and easy. We got to think about these things and fine tune them as we go. We don't have all the answers right away, but let's just play around with this and see where it takes us. So this is, we're gonna base it off of only the loans page for now. So let's play around with this. We're going to color each of these differently so that if we make copies, we can know which one is each table. We're going to name these ones that FileMaker already created, these table occurrences. I'm going to name this one table property. If you just double click on the little box, it'll open up. Table loan. Table payment. And I want to create a list view. So I want basically what I see in this Excel spreadsheet here. I want to start building this out. Let's just get to the groundworks of just building what we have here first, and then we can start fine-tuning it and designing it the way that we want. So I'm going to create I'm going to hold down Alt and copy this table occurrence. It's basically copying the same table. And the reason why I color coded this is now that I'm going to rename this list loans. This will give us the ability to say this, it's still the loan table, but we're just naming it a different table occurrence to start designing another area of the database, which we're designing a list view. Okay. And then let's just click OK for now, and let's go to Edit View, click on Edit Layout. We're going to edit, click on this drop down and edit Manage Layouts, and we're going to delete the first layout that FileMaker created. Okay, so now this is a property view. So I'm just going to do names for sake of not having to think about addresses right now. These are just properties that I know we have and properties that I manage. What else we got? We got A Street, if you are spelling something that you know is correct, you can actually start teaching FileMaker to learn the spelling that you're writing about. So I'm going to change this view because we are on the table's layout. I'm going to change this to a table view. And in the, actually, FileMaker is silly. We're going to go to Manage Layout here, and we're going to go into each individual table that we renamed as a table view. And we're going to make sure that we deselect Form and List View so that we only see it as a table view. We're going to do that for all of these. Okay, so now that when we're on this layout, it'll always be a table view. We have no way of going and viewing it as a form data entry or a list view. But now we need to manage layouts. We need to create a new layout for our list loans. And this one will be called list loans. And it's a computer list. So what are we doing here? We're selecting the table occurrence in the from the relationship graph, list loans. We're naming the layout list loans. We select computer, and we're selecting a list type layout. What does this do when we select that? Well, because we selected a list view, FileMaker automatically disabled form view and table view for us. Our default view is list view now. Okay, so now what are we going to do on this list loans? Well, first I would like to clean this up and change my theme of my database to enlightened, and we're going to create a title, and I'm just going to call this loans. And with the text box selected, we're going to do a title header, and we're going to change the color to white. I don't know why I didn't change the text. Kind of small header text, that's weird. We're just going to name this loans for now. So this is a list view, and your body, you have to understand that when you're on a list view, everything that's inside the body is going to repeat one after another for each record. So what we're going to create here is basically what we have in our Excel spreadsheet. We have date, description, loan account, debt account, and the amount. Okay, so how does this look? Well, it looks like this. We're going to drag over date, and right away I already know that when we drag this out, it says label preference over here. So we have to do we can do no label, label on top, label on the right, or label in the middle. I like the labels in the middle. We're going to click and drag this out, and you'll see that we have a field called date. And by doing the placeholder text, is what it's really called, the label in the middle, it added a placeholder text in the data panel here. And this placeholder text is just basically grayed out. When we go in here and create a record, you can see that it says the word date. It's nice, clean design. So with this, we're going to select the control style, which I like to see a drop down calendar with include icon to show and hide calendar. Now with this, what else do we have to do? We have to do the description selected, the label placement is already selected, and we're going to click and drag. It is also called description. Descriptions can sometimes be pretty long. And then we have credit account and the debt account here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how our field placements, if we were to just click and drag this would show one on top of the other, which I'll show. See how it positioned them one right underneath the other. I'm going to select the field placement to be side by side, so that when I drag it onto this layout, they're side by side here. We're going to select these two. We're going to resize them a little bit just to fit on the layout. And we are going to, sorry, 1 second. Back to where we were. I'm going to position these so that they fit. One thing that we didn't do is we didn't change the field type for these currency number fields. They're actually considered text. And the way that I know that is over here on the fields portal here. We can see that they are the type text. And we need number, so we can change them right here. Not only can you change them right here in this little panel fields view, but if you hold down Shift and Command D, it'll bring up your managed database panel window here, and you can actually go back into the loan. You can select the field that you want to edit the type on, and you can edit type here as well. Okay, so with that, we would like to show, actually, I'm sorry, see, this is me thinking too far ahead. These aren't currencies. These are supposed to be our properties, like what property we're loaning from and to. So these are actually supposed to be text fields. I'm sorry about that. We're never perfect. That's part of database design. It's never going to be perfect, and that's what we have to do. We have to go in and fix mistakes. So what do we want to do here then? If we have properties, I'm just going to shorten this up just for sake of argument for being able to record the screen. We have these properties. What do we want to do on this layout? Before we jump into selecting which properties we want to be the credit account and the debt account, we need to create a currency field, a number field for the amount we're actually loaning. FileMaker, every time you create a record, it automatically places a field onto the layout. With this selected and my placement noted and my label noted, I'm okay with dragging this out. Currency is usually placed to the far right hand side of the field. And what we're going to do here is, with a number field type selected in the data panel here, we scroll all the way to the bottom, we can format this as currency. In currency, we can do decimal points for showing our cents, so we have dollars and cents, and then we can also do 1,000 separator. With all that, we need to now start creating loans. But before we can create a loan, we need to tell this database that we want these to be a drop down to show our properties to select from. But we also need to store some data about the property, not just the name, because the name could actually change down the line, but the type of property, meaning the DNA of the property, the ID of the property, won't change. So with a field selected, we need to go in here and change it to a drop down list. And the drop down list is going to get values from somewhere. Well, it's going to get the values from a table that we haven't created yet, a table of currents that we haven't created yet within this table occurrence list loans. So we're going to go Shift Command D, and we're going to open the relationship table here. I'm sorry, the relationship graph. And we want to be able to relate properties to a credit account or a debit account. So what we got to do here is we got to click and drag the credit account field is going to be related to a primary, I'm sorry, I didn't copy. It didn't copy this table. There we go. So this one's going to be list loans, property, credit account. And this one over here will be the same thing, but this will be property debit account. Alright, so with this, we want to relate the credit account to a primary key of the credit account, and we want to relate the debt account to the primary key of the property debt account. These are just two different table occurrences, just so we can show data differently. It's not going to look differently, but it's going to perform differently. All right, we're going to click OK for now. So now we can go back to creating a drop-down arrow here, a drop-down list. We're going to include the drop-down arrow, and we're going to edit a value list. Well, what value list do we want to create here? Well, we want to create a properties drop-down list, and we're going to get values from a specific field. And the field that we're going to get this from is, the table we're going to get this from is basically table properties. And within table property, we can store the primary key, which is what we want to store, but we also want to view this data from the basis of the property name only. And we really only want to see the property name. We don't want to see the primary key. So this area here is data that we're going to store in the field itself, which we want to know the DNA of this property, but we don't really care about seeing the DNA. We just want to see the name, the physical appearance of this record. So we're only going to show values only from the second field, and we're going to click OK. All right. So with this selected, we have to now create another field displaying the name, because what's going to happen right now is when we go and edit this record, we can clearly see a drop down of all of our properties. But like I said, we're going to store the property DNA, which is the property primary key field. So when I select Alessandro, it shows a bunch of numbers. And to us, we know that this is the DNA, but to an end user, we don't want to see this. We just want to see the name. Okay? So one little trick that we do here is under the current table, we want to go to list loans property credit account. Okay? And because these are related, because this field is related to the primary key field of the table, this will only show data where it is equal to its DNA. So we're going to drag and drop the property name field here. We're going to drag it over the drop down list, and we're going to drag it to make it look like this is one specific field. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the top field not usable in browse mode, but we're going to make it usable in find mode. And the drop down list, we're only going to make it available in browse mode but not find mode. Okay? When something's in find mode, you can't click into it only. If it's only in find mode, you can't click onto it unless you are in find mode. Okay? So now if we exit out of the edit panel here, you can see instead of it displaying the property name, it's displaying, the property DNA, it's displaying the property name instead of this number. But when we click in this field, FileMaker doesn't really see this top field because we said don't look at it, don't allow us to click in this field. We can only click into the drop down field. Now you can do it any other way. You can make it to where you can click into the property name field, or you can click into the drop down list. Okay, so with that, we need to do the same thing for the debt account. And this is a lot easier because we just need to select drop down list. We're going to select the same drop down value. We're going to show an arrow as a drop down. And instead of showing, because these are going to be different values now, it's going to be two different primary key fields in each field. We need to show the name of the property from the property debt account table occurrence. What I'm going to do is, because this is already kind of sized, I'm going to click and drag while holding Alt, and I'm going to change it from this panel here. So now that we know property name, I'm just going to clean up this placeholder text here. Placeholder text cleaned up, and this says amount. All right, so now we are able to create and show two separate property names. We can put in an amount and we can put in a date, which is great. So I can start plugging away at inputting some of this data. One thing that I don't like is once data is already inputted as far as the properties go, we don't really know which one is the loan account, like the credit account, and which one is the debt account. So I would like to just put on, because as we start putting more records in place here, I would like to put in some labels at the top, just so we know like each row's description. One thing here, as I start creating more records, when I click into this and click out of this, you can actually start to see that we have a design flaw here. There's a few ways we can probably fix this. I'm going to do not show active row state, but do alternate row state, just to see what that does first. And it's still showing each field as not being active. So what we can do in that regard is go and edit the layout section, and we don't want to delineate fields on the current record only. We want to delineate fields on all records, and that kind of cleaned up that viewpoint there for that whole overlapping issue. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna start inputting a little bit of data. This record, and let's see, so our first record here was 5/7/2025. I'm going to come over here and just copy I don't know why I spelled it that way. So we have Day Street South is the property that is submitting the loan, and we have a debt account of Bay for the amount of $193.32. You can see how this is in currency. One little thing that I would like to clean up on the design is formatting these fields to show as center. Okay. And in here, I know I can probably export all this, but I would like to show you true database design. Typically we would export all this data if we're doing this for a big client, but we don't have a lot of fields here, and during the initial database programming phase we don't need a lot of data. We just need to play around with a few little data points. I'm going to just paint this so that I know that I've already inputted that. Okay. far we only have one debt account. I'm getting a phone call. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, so I've added a few records here, and we have two basically credit account, like loan accounts that are, we have two loan properties that are loaning out money to about two different properties. So basically what we want to do now is we want to start viewing this data on a property basis, I would assume. So I would assume that we would want to be like on the Day Street South property, and we want to see a portal of just the loans that one specific property has made. We can do that by going to the relationship graph here, and we can start designing that property layout in some type of way. We're going to hold down Alt here and click and drag. We're going to call this one lay property. Man, this keyboard's kind of hard to get used to. And on this property, we have the property information as far as the property name, but we want to also see like a portal of a list view of loans for that specific property. Okay, so now we're going to click Alt and drag, and we're going to call this one lay property loans, and we need to relate this to basically the credit account. So over here we've already said that this field here is storing this property's DNA, the primary key field, which is a specific number, sequence of numbers. And when we are relating a property to a loan, we want this property view to show all records where this property ID is the exact same as the credit account ID. Okay? And within this relationship, we could also create the ability to create loans, but I want to show you what it looks like just the way that it is right now. Okay? So we're going to click OK, and we're going to create a new layout. We're going to base it off of layout property. We're going to design this for the computer, and this one's going to be a form view. Okay. We're going to change the theme, and just for sake of time argument, we're just going to drag out the property name here. So we're on this property record, and we're going to draw out a portal. In this portal, it'll show in FileMaker that we only have one portal that we can create a table off of, which is the lay property loans. Okay? And we want to allow scrolling. We want to do alternate row state. And the fields that we want is the date, description, and the amount. We can put credit account and the debt account because we can actually go out and see. Well, this will allow us to see what properties owe this property money. So we can just add that in there. Okay. And let's just see what this looks like. Alessandro, let's open up a new window here. I'm going to make this one go back to the list loans. So we can see that Day Street South right here shows that it should have 3 loans out to Bay Street. So now we can filter and scroll through until we get to Day Street South. And this Day Street South is showing 3 records because Day Street South has 3 loans out to a certain property, which we can't see here, but we can see it here. And the reason why we can see it here and not here is because of the storage of this drop-down field. The cool thing about this, because we're really not going to be inputting data, I'm not saying that we couldn't, but because we don't have to import data here, we can import it on the list view of the loans. We could technically change this field to only display the name. We don't have to display the actual primary key field. But let's say that we want to keep it the way that our list is, okay? So we have this loan here, and basically what we can do now is we can create a secondary property table occurrence. I'm just going to call this debt property or debt account. And basically what we need to display here is the debt account is related to the primary key. So this would allow us to create this to show property name, just like that. And when you click on this, it's actually the field for a text box of the actual property name. So now we're starting to drill down and design this. So we can now scroll to Day Street North, and we should actually see 4 loans out. So Day Street North, we have 4 loans out, and we have it to the Bay property, and we have Brown property as well. Some things that are kind of missing on this is that the currency is not really formatted, the date field's not formatted. It's kind of just a list of information, which is not bad. We just got to go in here, select the property, and change the formatting to currency, decimal points, and I like to use the 1000 separator. So that fixes that. One thing that we have to note here is each property could even have loans. Basically, it could be crediting another property, or it could be in debt to another. So I think it would be cool to show having a, I'm sorry, I don't remember what FileMaker calls it. It's like a tab view. Let's see. Tab control, slide control. I think it'd be cool to have a tab control view to where we can tab between a property's loans out. Let's see, we can do loans. I think loans is great. Or we can do, man, what's a good name for this? I think it's best just to keep it at like loans out. And possibly loans taken. I think maybe loans paid out. Loans paid out and loans taken. Let's see. I feel like there's a better way of describing them. This is the cool thing about ChatGPT. It just helps. In FileMaker, I have a layout with a tab view. The form view is displaying property, record, and then a tab view will have something like loans paid out and another tab for loans taken. These tab views will show portals of either loans the property has to pay back, or a portal of loans paid out to other properties. Do you have any other titles for these tab views other than loans paid out and loans taken? What are some better titles? This is another tool in our disposal. Yep, loans paid out and loans taken work, but they feel a little clunky and can be misread, taken by who, if the goal is instant clarity. Okay, here we go. An accounting background. Loans owed, payable, loans receivable, owed to this property. Okay, that's cool. Accounting style, payables, receivables, notes payable, notes receivable, we owe, owed to us. See, this is cool about ChatGPT. They kind of really think outside the box, really, and start throwing things out. It's like working with a team of people. Loans this property. I like something long. I don't know if there's a limit on loans this property owes. Delete these. Loans owed to this property. Let's see what these look like. Here we go. So I think it's cool to have like these little tabs, because now, because you got to think about it, this property could have taken out a loan from another that they also need to pay. This property also needs to pay back. So now we need to edit this. So these are loans owed to this property. So in this tab, we need to put this table, this portal view into this. Okay. So in FileMaker, you can click and drag what you have on a layout off the screen a little bit, and we're going to drag this out. We want to jump to this tab, loans owed to this property, and we're going to drop this portal back in. You can change the amount of rows a portal has by double clicking into it. I'll try to fill this up. There we go. Looks pretty good. So we have loans owed. You know, I'm going to do one less because I already know we're going to do some type of total at the bottom, like a total amount owed. Loans this property owes, and loans owed to this property. Okay. So we've already related a portal for loans owed to this property. how are we going to display the same type of portal but for a loans this property owes? So let's go think about this. So loans, lay property loans. So loans, do we have that right? Let's make sure. Okay, so Day Street North is owed by Bay Street. Loans owed to this property. So Day Street is owed by Bay and Brown. Yep. So Day Street is owed all of these loans. Okay. So now we need, let's just create another record to where loans this property owned. So Day Street North, we need to get Day Street North on this side. So we're just gonna create another record and testing properties layout tab view different portals. Okay, so this will be, let's just say that Brown is owed money. Brown Street property is owed money by Day Street North, and they owe $500. Okay, let's just say it. So now we want this one record, because Day Street North is only on this side once. We want this record now to display that one record on this side. Okay, how are we going to do that now? So let's think about this. That property, we're relating this side based off of the credit side. We need to relate it from the debt side now. So we're going to go to the database layout here and lay property loans. So I think we should rename this loans out. Just rename that for a second. Basically, we're going to create another table of currents, which is still going to be the primary key of the property, but instead of relating it to the credit account, we're going to relate it to the debt account. Loans out, loans to be paid. We can clean up these names later if we choose to. These are going to be loans to be paid by the property, and we're also going to want to display a, just call it account, which the debt account, this is going to be credit, so it's the opposite. Okay, let's play around with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this same portal and we're going to paste it in this layout. But we need to remember that we got to click into this double click into the portal setup, and these are going to be loans to be paid. Loans this property owes. This property needs to pay a loan back. Not only do you need to change the portal itself, you need to change the fields within the portal. So now you can clearly see it's showing a date field here because we selected the wrong. This one is the credit account. Yeah, we want credit account property name. Yes. Okay, so now this property has loans to be paid, but it's also given out loans. Okay. So now you can clearly see that when we're on a single property, we're like, okay, this property needs to pay this loan off. It owes $500 to the Brown Street property. But this property also is owed money from other properties. So this is a cool little report overview on like what accounts owe who and what and how much. Okay. So the next thing that we can do on this is we can start focusing on cleaning up like the amounts. So let's say total amounts owed. And this is really cool because FileMaker has a field type called summary. So we're going to do a summary. I do a lowercase s underscore amount. That tells me it's a summary field. And if you do Command S, or you can click and select summary, you can create this, and then it's going to pop up another window asking you what you want to do, and we want to do a total of the amount. Okay. Now, what we want to do on this layout is we want to select a total amount for this table occurrence. I'm holding down Alt and dragging. We want to do an S underscore amount, which is a summary of all the records in this portal. Okay. And this is total amount of loans to be paid back. I want this to be a normal field. I'm going to select these two and size them up. And now we can do a total at the bottom here. Now we need to do the same thing for the other portal. This will be more interesting because we have more numbers to work with. Loans paid out, summary field for this table occurrence, this portal. So we got tab view 1, loans this property owes, loans owed to this property, and it's totaling up $233.37, which if I just bring up my Mac calculator here for a second, just to show that it's calculating correctly. $232.37. Oh, I forgot a dollar. $193.32, $219, $20, $36, and $17.50 equals a total of $233.37, which is what FileMaker is calculating as well. The cool thing is that these fields don't need to be in the tab view. We can actually clean up this layout and start designing a better form view. So as soon as we get on this layout, we can start creating some more design features here. So I want to create a rectangle. Let's see, rounded rectangle. That'd be pretty cool. We can create this little field here. I think the field, there we go. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. And this is where we can get creative with the design and just play around with this layout. We can say loans this property play around and just do center. Loans owed to property. And with that, we can actually just do the same field types. I'm going to do something a little bit interesting. Instead of having an actual field up here, we're going to create what's called a insert merge field, which is basically like embedding the field as text. So these are, the first one, loans this property owes, which is loans to be paid. We're going to go to loans to be paid and select the S amount. And we're going to add this here. And I think it'd be cool to make this bold. And let's say owed to this property would be considered kind of a negative number, which is red. And we can also make this bigger. FileMaker fixed this. There was an issue. You're supposed to be able to make this smaller. No. I think they fixed that. So that's loans to be paid. And then we need to do merge field on loans out, summary amount. If you click this, copy the object style, if you click this like, I don't know what they call this. Oh, they changed it. They changed the copy and paste. Before you would have it selected and then you would click on it, from what I remember. We're going to change this to be green. And let's just see what this looks like. Right off the bat, I can tell that it's not currency, but the numbers are correct. So we're going to select this. And we're going to format it as currency. So now these are nice and big. We can edit the sizes if we'd like. Which is pretty cool. FileMaker really cleaned up that data view. You couldn't really resize those text boxes before, which I've never really noticed until now. So yeah, this is starting to look really good. I mean, this is a basic database of basically displaying data as far as loans and loans owed to a property, loans this property owes to. Let's filter to, let's see, Day Street South. Okay, so Day Street South has a bunch of loans out that are owed to this property, but Day Street South doesn't owe anybody money. Let's see if we can get over to Bay. So Bay owes a lot of money because we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records. So this property owes a lot of money. and we need to also work on a, let's see, Alessandro, nothing. Here's one for $17. Okay, so the next thing I would assume that we should work on is we need to work on paying this debt off and figuring out where we're going to store those payments at. The way that we store these payments is creating a whole nother payment system, or I'm sorry, database system for a table of storing the payment records and relating it to what is this paying off. So we either might have a payments tab, or we might go in depth in creating a loan detailed view to where we can actually say, hey, loans owed to this property. Let's go and open this loan as a form view, meaning full scale data, so we can start adding stuff to it and possibly changing the status of this loan and changing the balance on this loan. So down the line, these fields are going to change because our database is going to adapt and evolve around calculations, payments, subtracting, and adding. So I'm going to pause the video here. I got to go take care of a few things, and I'll be back and we'll start the next section of this video. Alright, I'm back, you guys. So, alright. Now that we have a list of, or a view of properties and their associated loans that the property itself owes and loans owed to this property, I think now we need to start working on a layout for the loans themselves. One way we can do this is we can click on one of these records and have it pop up a window card for that associated record, which is like details of a list record. And on that layout, it'll say basically the same data we see here, but with a portal underneath it showcasing payment history. So we're going to go into the manage database, and we already have a payment table made. So payments will have most likely a date field for the date they're being paid. I just did Command D to change the type to date. We can probably do type, which will be text. Type, we could probably do like a drop down of probably like cash, credit, check, or online payment type. And with those, we can do, of course, an amount field. And let's probably just do a note. Okay. So now let's go and think about this in the relationship graph to figure out exactly what we can do as far as relationships go. So because we're already on this layout over here, sorry about that, I had to step away for a second. Now we have to figure out where are we going to start relating payments. So because we want to be on this layout, this list layout, and we want to assign multiple payments to a loan, we need a way of relating a payment to a loan itself. So we need to go to the table payment and add a loan ID of K field, which this field is the foreign key of the loan table. We want to store the loan's DNA field, the primary key field, inside of this field so that all the payments that have this ID belong to this loan. Okay? Now what we need to start thinking about is calculations. So even though that this loan, this table loans, has a amount field, we're gonna need to tell it, hey, we need a calculation of total payments minus the amount to then create a calculated result in the loans portal or the loans table so that we have a balance. Okay, I'm just gonna rename this list loans payment history. Okay, so now that we have payment history, a little change we need to do in the relationship itself, the relationship between list loans and list loans payment history, is we want to be able to allow the creation of payment history. And if you delete a loan, you typically want to delete the payment history. So we're also going to say delete this related record in this table when a record is deleted in the other table. Okay? So another thing we need to go and put in the payments table is a summary amount, which is a summary field, which is going to sum up the total of all amounts paid. Okay. And then in the loan table, we're going to do a lowercase c underscore balance. This is a balance calculation. And the balance calculation field, we need to basically say we're going to evaluate this loan from list loans. List loans total amount paid. I'm sorry, total amount actually no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do the list loan amount minus the list loans payment history total, and this should give us a balance. Okay, so let's try it with that. Click OK, click OK. It automatically added this field to the layout, which is what we don't want. Now we need to start thinking about creating a way of opening up this record into a window. We're just going to say view for now. And FileMaker has some nice different colored viewing options here. I like their blue button. And now we're going to go write our first script. We're going to hold Shift Command S. This is going to bring up our script editor. We're going to write a script, and we're going to say view loan details. Okay, and within the script, we're going to type new window, and we're going to do probably like a card window, I would assume. We can title this loan details. And the layout that we're going to use is a layout that we haven't created yet. Okay. We're going to click OK for now. We're going to come back and edit this later. And we need to go to Manage Layouts, New Layout, Computer. We're going to base it off the list loans. We're going to create a form, loan details. And we have to understand that this window is going to be smaller than the window we're opening. And then let's probably go and get all of this data here because we already have it created. We're going to copy it, we're going to paste it. So now we have the details of the loan, and now we're going to show a portal, list payment history, allow vertical scrolling. Okay. We want date, type, amount. We can even add the note in here. Click OK. And let's just drag this down a little bit. Let's make this a currency field. This a date field. The type, like we said, we're going to make it a drop-down list. We can create a new value list, which is payment type. These shouldn't really change, but we'll just say cash, check, bank transfer. Will just be like a description, quick little description. Delineate fields on current record. We're going to make these defaults. And then let's do a total amount paid. Let's just do a little something creative here. I'm going to copy down the amount owed. And we're going to see if our calculation is working. This field is going to come from list loans, see balance. So this is the loan itself, the loan details. the loan details are jumping over here to amount owed, and let's just start playing around with this. Let's say we made a payment today in cash. Testing FileMaker cash payment, and let's just say 32 cents was added. And now you can see how 32 cents was recorded in the total amount paid, and we have a balance of 193. So let's say that payment was yesterday, and let's say we paid another bank transfer for 193. So now 193 and 32 equals the 193.32 for a $0 balance now. Okay, so let's go back to our butts in here and let's edit our script to open up this loan details layout. I'm going to close this out just so you can visualize it. So these are all the loans, and we want to be able to click on this loan and view payment history, which is a nice little card window. One little edit we got to do is it would be nice to move this down so that the X close marker is not in the way. And also too, now that we have payment set up, we can also add the payment field row in the list along with total amount paid and a balance, so that the loans list view will show a row of what's owed, what has been paid, and what's the balance. Okay, so let's go and fix these little things real quick. We're going to do a new window to go to the loan details. We're going to edit this, make it just a little bit bigger. See what that looks like. So now that moved down there. That's good enough for me for now. This page, we're probably gonna have to make this view just a little bit bigger. So this is amount owed. We're going to do a alt drag for a list loans payment history summary for just this record. This will be a summary of total payments. That a little smaller. I can drag this stuff down. And I'm going to show the calculated balance. So now you can see that this is the amount owed, the total amount paid, and the balance. Now that we have a calculation field, now you can clearly see that we don't really need to have a balance field for the loan itself, because now it's calculating, hey, if there's no payments, then it's automatically going to show the full amount that we owe. So we can go back in here and delete the first field that we created, and we can move all of this down. And now we know what we owe and we know what we paid. Okay? So what we can do now is we can play around with some views. Let's see. So we're viewing this. That's a payment. That's owed. I'm thinking if maybe we should make it to where these are negative numbers, meaning it's a negative balance to pay back. That way, if it's negative, we can actually show it as red. I want to see if we can make this work with our properties. So let's say we're on a property and we want to click into a loan the same way here and view payment details. Bay owes a lot of money to a couple properties. So I'm going to step out for a little bit. I'll be back. I'm going to pause the screen real quick. I got to do a few things and I'll be back. Alright, you guys, I'm back. So let's see, where do we live off? We left off on the fact that we can show basically a whole column of payments and a column of balances. One thing that I think we should edit is editing the actual amount owed to be a negative number. And if we do that, it's going to change how our calculation behaves. First, I'm going to go in here and edit all these fields. I'm going to show a little quick tip on, let's say you have a bunch of records and you want to change them all to a negative value. What you can do is we can go to the table loans. Let's modify this table to show an amount, and you can see that these two already have it. What we can do is omit this record. Let's see, omit record. Omit record. It's not deleting the record, it's just getting rid of it. We're going to add a negative symbol, minus symbol in front of all these. FileMaker has this cool little replace field context, and basically I think we can say self. So what we're going to do is a test. We're going to do quotation, minus sign, quotation, and self. And this should and let's say amount. Let's try it this way. And there we go. So that changed all of them. So all we said was add a minus sign plus the existing amount field, and it replaced all of them without us having to go to each individual field. Let's go back to list loans. Now that these are all negative, it's actually going to show our sorry about that, I had a text message. Let's go back to the database and change the calculation of the loan. So this actually should be a plus, because this is basically a negative number. Now that's showing a 0. Another thing I want to do is text someone real quick. Okay, so now what I would like to do is I want to edit the data of a payment to automatically show 0, so that we don't see these empty little fields here. And we're going to go back to a table view payments. We're going to modify this table to show the date, type, and amount, and possibly the nope. And we're going to we can't actually do that. I think there's a way to do it in the there's really no way to do it. Might have to come back to that idea. I know there's a way to do it, I just don't remember. So this property owes negative $17.50. This property is owed $500. Let's just keep these red. What we can do actually is we're going to make them black the way they were, and I'm going to show you how we can edit a number to show as negative red. There we go. So we've created a database where we can store a list of loans Each loan is related to a specific property that's giving the loan an amount, a payment history, as well as a property layout that will showcase a list of loans that this property owes and a list of loans owed to the property. And we've created a nice display here for this record, and it gives you a quick overview of what it's like to create a database and make relationships, create some basic scripts, and basically create anything that you can put your mind to. You can almost build anything that manages data in FileMaker. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Pretty soon I'm going to be working on another website again, and investing heavily to where it can stay up for a long period of time without having any financial issues. Everything that's going to be on the website needs to be paid for, so the website will showcase a database to buy, which whatever is in the video, there'll be a specific database for that video to purchase. This video took about an hour and 40 minutes to just record, and I probably have another hour or so in editing the video, and editing these videos will take some time, and I would like to be paid for that time. Education is free for the most part on YouTube. If you want the database file to be able to dissect it, play around with it, and learn from it, I'm thinking that I'm going to be listing some databases between $1 and $10, and ones kind of like this that are a medium advanced level, because there's not much going on in this database. They will be probably closer to the $10 and $20 range, and eventually we're going to start working up towards a $100 database to where you can buy and really dissect and learn a lot as far as filtering records, searching records, sorting them, printing reports, exporting, and so on. So if you're interested in those packages coming up, please keep a lookout for those that website. And until next time, guys, appreciate it.